Hello there, I'm Dr. Lizette, and I help overwhelmed and exhausted leaders end burnout and be present in their personal lives, be there with their loved ones, spend quality time with them, and also not sacrifice themselves because leaders often come last. They're so busy taking care of other people that they forget about themselves and they forget that you cannot out of an empty cup. So I'm going to talk today about 5 things that leaders need to be able to lead at their best, right? Without having to work harder than they should. And chances are that you're working harder than you should. This is a problem because it doesn't allow you to show up at your best with everything that you bring to the table. It makes it very difficult for you to do your own work, much less help others do theirs. Lead them throughout the process, encourage them, right? And so I want you to think about these 5 things and ask yourself, where am I at with this? Is there one in particular that I need to improve? Because I can tell you right now that it's going to be an uphill battle if you don't apply the 5 things that I'm about to tell you. And actually, there are more, but let's just stick to 5 today. I don't want to overwhelm you. And what I want to avoid from happening to you is that all the excitement that you had about this opportunity, right? Being honored, feeling really good about yourself, proud that you were able to climb, right? Climb up the ladder to the point where you're at today, right? All the sacrifices that you made to get to this point. Don't let that go to waste because what I often see is that excitement fizzles out. Why? Because you're depleted, overwhelmed, exhausted. You have barely anything left inside of you. And what ends up happening? It comes out in a way that isn't really you, like being short, being a bit, having a tone, right? Full of irritability. And I know that's not you, right? You want to help other people show up as their best self. So let's just get right to it. Okay. So, number one, you need to be able to read people. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about being psychic or anything like that. I'm talking about being able to read the room, right? See where everybody's at, all at the same time. If you're doing one-on-one, being able to look at them and get a sense of what's going on for them. And you can do this through observing their body language because most of our communication isn't what is said. It's how we're showing up, right? And so someone who's like this, what do you think that means? Maybe defensive. They might be cold, but they're probably feeling defensive, right? If maybe they're like this, they're probably irritated, right? And they feel like maybe some of their autonomy is being taken away from them or some of their decision-making power, right? A whole host of things. So you need to be able to pay close attention to the message that people are sending with their body language, how they're standing, how they're sitting, right? What they're doing with their hands. The other thing is paying attention not just to what is being said, but how it's being said. The tone. Does the tone sound like they are nervous, right? And so you need to attend to that, right? Because oftentimes they won't tell you what they need because they want to feel like they can handle it, right? And so being able to ask them instead of waiting for them to tell you, right, that they need something, that they're stuck somewhere. Pay attention, okay? What else? You can, if they are being short with their responses, maybe they're upset. Who knows? Just pay attention. Start to see these patterns, right? The next one that I want to talk to you about is crisis management. Listen, we're living in a world where you can expect the unexpected. And so when things change quickly, when there's chaos, fires to be put out, there's a lot of pressure that gets put on you. And so you need to be able to stay cool, calm, and collected when the going gets tough because you don't just need to manage yourself. You need to manage others and the situation, right? That's a handful. So if you're overwhelmed, exhausted, if you're burnt out, you're not going to be able to think sharply, think critically, think quickly, which is often what needs to be done when you are under dire circumstances, or there is a quick turnaround that's needed, right? And so if you don't have much energy, guess what? Your brain, your mind is going to be affected. So this is why it's so important for you to protect yourself from burnout. And one of the ways that you can do that, by the way, is having some breathing room for yourself in the morning, at least 10 minutes in the afternoon, to help your mind decompress from a busy morning. And then at the end of the day, right, so that you decompress from the whole day, right? Figure out what works for you with your schedule and pay attention to your needs, because everybody has different needs, right? And so you have to be aware of your needs on a scale of 1 to 10. How exhausted are you? If you're at an 8, 9, or 10, we have a problem that needs to be addressed. Okay. If on certain days you're at a 4, 3, maybe, or even a 5, pay attention. What's going on at that point? What has helped you keep the overwhelm in a more controlled state, right? Not overwhelming you to the point that you're not able to show up as your best self. Make sense? Okay, the third one is you have to learn how to be effective and efficient. So here's a hard one, though. I see a lot of leaders who feel like, you know what, let me just do this on my own. It's going to take way too much time for me to tell someone else how to do it. And I also have to make sure that they do it right, which may end up coming back to me to fixing it, right? And so it just seems so much easier to just do it yourself. But guess what? All these different micro instances where you're like, let me just do it myself. It's easier. I don't have the mental bandwidth to sit down and explain things to people. But my friend, this is what it means to be a leader, right? But you can't do it if you're burnt out, right? And so this is another thing that I want to mention about effectiveness and efficiency. You need to slow down to speed up. I'll repeat that. You need to slow down to speed up. But Dr. Lizette, I have so much to do. I know. But when you take a moment to delegate, right? You might not need to do that ever again if you invest the time and energy and effort to show someone how to do something. It's off your plate, right? Forever, hopefully. Somebody else now knows how to do it and do it right. But you got to show them. Yes, it takes a bit of time to be able to do that, but it's an investment of your time so that you can have even more time. Make sense? So, taking an inventory, right? Auditing where all your time is going. Are you having more meetings that are needed? Are they longer than they need to be? Could you make them shorter by maybe sending an email with some details ahead of time? How can you make things more efficient, right? You can look at your calendar as well. Where are you spending all your time? If you look at your calendar, it's basically an image of your life, how you spend your time, right? And oftentimes people get surprised when they actually take the time to look at it and evaluate like a whole week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and find the patterns, because it's really difficult to pay attention when you're taking everything as like one little thing, right? And you don't remember that this one little thing is like the 10th little thing of the little things that you've been doing. Makes sense? But when you look at your calendar and you assess it, you're able to see, oh my goodness, I'm doing this thing a lot and it's ineffective and definitely inefficient. What can I do instead? right? What can I do instead for it to not um, minimize the effectiveness, but to increase the efficiency? Okay. That way you can free up some time. And when you free up some time, you use less of your energy. And when you use less of your energy, you're able to preserve it for the things that matter most. And I'm not just talking about work, I'm talking about your personal life. If you have a personal life, that's really important. You need to be able to psychologically separate yourself from work. Don't bring it home. And it doesn't just mean the laptop, I mean mentally, right? Um, you need to be able to unplug and be present wherever you're at, especially at home. Okay. Now, this one, make mental notes. It has its pros and cons, I'll tell you that. But you have to be able to take in information quickly, right? Make mental notes of the things different people are saying. But, okay, this is key. While you should do that, while you should be able to do that, you must dump it out of your head and put it onto paper, your whatever you need to do, your to-do list, wherever it needs to go, anywhere but your head. Don't keep it there. Just imagine how you're getting all these incoming pieces of information, the data that you're picking up by observation, by listening, right? And your mind isn't meant for holding things. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to use it at its best when the time comes that you need it. So your mind is not storage, but make mental notes and then take them out, put them somewhere else, and then schedule whatever you need to do with them. Okay. All right. And the last one, emotional intelligence. Now, this one is the most important one. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a psychologist. It's really the foundation of everything that you do because it starts from within, right? You are your greatest asset. You are your greatest tool. And you use your mind to be able to do a good job, to be able to lead others. But if you are not self aware, which is a component of emotional intelligence, right, then you won't be able to evaluate yourself in terms of how you're showing up as a leader or just a person, right? Like, even in your personal life, which is really important, it's equally important as work, if, honestly, if not more important. Because if things are falling apart at home, things are going to fall apart at work and vice versa. You are not separate from your career, it's a part of who you are. Okay. And so you have to be really self aware. To be able to do that, you have to have the mental capacity to reflect. You have to have the space and the time to reflect and evaluate yourself. Look, as a leader, you're a thinker. You're not a doer. Stop doing all the things and sit and think about how to do things effectively and efficiently, right? How to show up at your best and lead at your best. Starting with yourself, your inner leader. Take care of that. Okay, so if you need any help with this, reach out to me. I love helping high potential talent leaders be able to show up as their best self without burning out, without sacrificing themselves, without not having enough quality time with their family, right? And definitely, you don't need to step back from your career. You worked really hard for it. There's a way that you can have your career cake and eat it too, so to speak, right? It's possible for you to keep your role as a leader, despite all the responsibilities and roles that you play, multiple of them, right? At work, at home. It's possible for you if you're able to do it in a way that allows you to show up. Having all these traits that I mentioned, being able to read people, right? Read the room, because sometimes people aren't going to tell you what they're thinking or feeling. You have to invite them to do that. Okay. You might think it's obvious. If you feel or think something, just tell me. That's not how it works. Right? You have to open that door and invite them so that they feel it's safe because it's coming from you. Right? Be able to manage crises, put out fires. You have to not burn out first. if you want to be able to put out fires in a cool, calm, and collected way. Be effective and efficient. Chances are you're working harder and longer than you should. I guarantee that I can take a look at your calendar and pinpoint where you are being inefficient, where you are spending time that doesn't really make a big difference. The changes that you can make. A small little change can make a big difference. Okay. And then emotional intelligence, you got to be aware of yourself because it all starts from within. All right. I've enjoyed having you here. I hope this was helpful. And if you need more help, reach out to me. Take care.